Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated and confusing, but there is a better way to buy, and that's with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets at every type of live event. Whether you're searching for a last-minute deal, planning a night out, or need to find the perfect gift, SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing quite like seeing your favorite team or musician in person, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone. It's by far the easiest way I found to shop for tickets. I could be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever and to get you the most bang for your buck. SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Best of all, my listeners get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code WINGO today. That's promo code WINGO, $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Chairman of the board starting off.
Well, we share a birthday.
Golic and Wingo. Yes. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr., Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. It is your 55th birthday. You share the same birthday as Frank Sinatra.
Yes, I do.
That's pretty good.
Listen.
That one's hard to top. It's
very impressive. And I feel good. 55. Yeah.
You look good.
The double nickel, as I said, I feel 36. Why I picked 36, I'm not sure. My wife and I were talking about that yesterday.
That seemed a strange number to pull out of.
It did, because I feel the best I felt physically since playing ball, and a lot has to do with dropping weight, doing the stem cell stuff I've been doing as well out in Colorado and Arizona at Premier Stem Cell. It's been great for me. And working out, Chris bust my hump. We're working out all the time now and eating well, so I feel great. So I just figured I'd go in the 30s, which is about half a decade since I stopped playing.
Right.
But also was when I was kind of the fattest in my life as well.
I was about to say you were a large human being.
I was.
That's why I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. But I like that age. I want to feel young again, even though I'm 55.
Well, we all want to feel young again.
Man, I'm trying so hard.
You're doing good. You really are. I'm proud.
It's difficult. There's about 4 cakes here.
Yeah.
My wife sent me in with cupcakes.
At some point, you just need to do a face plant on one of those cakes. Just dive in. No hands behind your back. Just go.
Good call.
Just go. I mean, we'll do that last segment.
Yeah.
So but you need to do a face plant on one of those cakes.
Okay. Done.
Done.
There you go.
Yes. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Sal Powell will join us in a little bit to talk about what's going on in Philadelphia. But did you get a chance to hear Josh McCown after the Broncos shut out the Jets in Denver? They ended their 8-game losing streak. 23-0 was the final score. Josh McCown broke his hand. Now, Rich Cimini on ESPN.com with this little fact. Josh McCown was on his way to delivering the New York Jets' first wire-to-wire quarterback. In other words, starting all 16 games. Mm-hmm. Since Richard Todd in 1980. That's ridiculous. But he had that broken left hand that ruined that year. And if you didn't hear what it meant to Josh just to be able to play the game, I think it's worthy of your time.
It's been the best because of the guys. Not numbers. It's been the best because of the group of men in the locker room. I'm just proud to be part of it. So thankful they let me be part of this team.
Now, for those of you that are the cynics out there and skeptics and say, well, teams are trying to tank and all that kind of stuff, that kind of puts that to an end.
Oh, listen, 38-year-old, basically a career backup that looks like Drago that we've talked about.
Yes.
But, I mean, just to hear that, a guy for a team that everybody thought was tanking. But as we've always said, whenever you say the word tanking, I don't care whatever sport, you're not talking about the players.
Can't.
You're talking about management and the team they're fielding. And a lot of people thought this was a team they were fielding that wasn't very talented. Though I guess if they were truly tanking, they'd have put one of those young quarterbacks who they don't even feel can see the field at this point with Hackenberg and Petty.
Well, Petty finished up the game.
Had to finish up the game out of necessity because, McCown's walking off with a broken hand. A guy, again, who's 38, 67% completion, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, leading a team that everybody thought was going to stink this year. They're sitting at 5-8. So, and you hear the emotion, you hear what it means to these players, you hear what it means to these guys, and that's because when you're apart from it and just kind of looking down on it, as a fan, a lot of times there's a robotic feeling of these guys just get up every Sunday, they go out and they play. We would hope they enjoy it, but they play. They get paid well to do it. They're not robots, man. I mean, they're human beings, and they take this stuff obviously very seriously, and it means a lot to different amounts to different people, no doubt about it. But you could certainly hear in his voice what it all meant to him for a guy who clearly is just about going to be done playing the game.
And look, he's still going strong, which is the amazing thing, as we are Golic and Wingo presented by Amazon. Amazon's got millions of toys and games to choose from this holiday for kids of all ages. Check out Amazon today. You could make a very compelling argument that he's been one of the gifts that's been a real surprise.
I agree.
For the Jets this year.
Wouldn't you think he would be another, whether maybe it's in New York, if they go a whole nother direction, say we're drafting another quarterback to start, that he would be another bridge guy. He would be a bridge guy somewhere else, maybe, because of all the quarterbacks you're talking about that are going to be in the league next year, the new quarterbacks that are either going to start right from jump or they're going to be bridged to, and McCown, I would say, again, it's a left-hand break. It's not a throwing hand. It's going to heal. So, if and the year he's having this year, I think would be a fine year for some team, if it's not the Jets, someone else to say, yeah, this is an older player, a guy who's been through it, a guy who can show the younger player the ropes a little bit until we go with the rookie.
The only real flaw in his season this year has been fumbles. I mean, he has 11 fumbles. That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
But 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Again, for a while, he and Drew Brees were the only two quarterbacks completing over 70% of their throws. And they weren't just dump-offs. I mean, he and Robbie Anderson have really connected. I think this game ended his streak of either 5 or 6 games, Anderson, with at least one touchdown pass. So, look, this is a game that's very hard to play. And it is a game that you have to be committed to every time you cross that line, going from the sidelines to the playing field. And for all those people that say they're just going through, if you go through the motions in a regular NFL game, you are in a lot of trouble. So you have to understand what you're getting into and be willing to do that and lay it all on the line. And for a team that's at best can finish 500, that's the best possible scenario now for the New York Jets. To hear that passion from a guy who's in his 15th season, in a lot of ways, that's what football really is.
It really is. And I guess on another side of this, you could probably say is with at least a couple of games left, as you mentioned, 3 games left to try and get to 500, you are going to see what a Bryce Petty can do. You know what? The plan obviously wasn't to play these guys at all. This was Josh McCown was doing his thing. But Bryce Petty needs to look at this. If he is going to be the guy as a chance to, this team, in my opinion, has basically cast him and Hackenberg off.
Yeah. As
they're not the answer here. So, through one man's misery, the broken hand, the end of the season is another man's opportunity. And you see that in life. Whether it's someday at work when someone's out for a week being sick or whatever, somebody gets another chance. You never know. You never know when your chance comes about, but when your chance comes about, how do you handle that situation? And now Petty's going to get that chance.
And Josh has handled his situation in New York very, very well. And, the jokes were, hey, they're going to go winless. They may have the fewest points ever. Well, it turns out they have 3 more wins than the Giants, and their offense is way more productive than the Giants was, albeit the Giants had a ton of injuries. I get it. Okay, lots to get into, and let's start with...
It's time for... Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, and we start off the top in the NBA. What happened to the Thunder? They lost at home to the Hornets 116-103 in a game which Oklahoma City was favored by 7.5. Thunder are now 12-14. And yes, I get it. It's December, but this team was loaded. You have all 3 of those stars playing together. It's just not working, and they're 2 games under 500.
Yep, they're on the outside looking in right now. Most games as a favorite this season, the Warriors lead the way at 27 games, and they have 6 losses. Then it was the Thunder at 25 games. They have 14 losses. Carmelo Anthony, disgusted enough to leave the locker room early after Monday's game, didn't meet with reporters. It's been a struggle for him. He's averaged 18 points and 40% field goal. Both would be lows of his career. And on the other side of that, as the Knicks, the team he left, Porzingis is blossoming without him, averaging over 7 points more this season without Carmelo. And then you look at Paul George. Paul George returns to Indiana for the first time Wednesday, but it's Oladipo, Victor Oladipo in that trade, who is actually outproducing George's numbers from Indiana last year. He's averaging, Oladipo, 24.5 points compared with George's over 23 last season. So this is supposed to be, we've seen a few teams where some of the stars got together, and right now we'll see. There's a lot of season left to go.
A lot.
It's just not working out for them at all.
To that point, the Pacers are 16-11, and everyone thought the Thunder stole Paul George for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis, and it's working out much better.
Yes, it is.
For Indiana at this point than it is for the Oklahoma City Thunder. We continue.
Off the top.
Well, Jello and Melo are now pro basketball players. LiAngelo and LaMelo Ball have signed deals with a Lithuanian basketball club, according to ESPN's Jeff Goodman, Adrian Wojnarowski, and several other people. In fact, Big Baller Brand has tweeted out a picture of them signing their contracts. This is a strange situation.
In Lithuania, where there's a couple of leagues, they're going to play in the lesser one, the Baltic League, basically, where the team there is 4-1, and the reason they have one loss is because their coach got thrown out of a game and they had to forfeit it. And the best player on the team is the coach's son. If you weren't, listening to names, it would sound like LeVar Ball,
yeah.
Wouldn't it, the way that's going when he coaches his AAU team and some of the things that go on and his kids being the best player. So, Trey, I don't know what to make of this. First and foremost, you hope the kids do well. I mean, it's nothing on those guys, a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old, but as parents, a lot of times try to navigate for their kids, and we know LeVar Ball has got pretty much every microphone in the world, certainly except this one, in front of his face that's going to let him talk about what he thinks his kids could do. And Lonzo, I think, is still a special player in the NBA once, if he works on that shooting touch and gets it down the way he sees the court and such. LiAngelo, as we've been saying all along, these are the experts talking. He was projected as a mid-college player out of high school, wasn't expected to be in UCLA's regular rotation. He was expected to struggle to add value to this team, this Baltic League as well. And LaMelo is the one that they say may have some NBA potential. Obviously he has 16 years old, so we know he's got to work on his game, and we'll see down the road, not an overly large kid at all. But so for them, you hope the best, because we're talking about kids, a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old, what they can do. But, man, you just wonder how involved you get in the decisions you make. Is it going to work out, or what's going to work out? You go from, a junior in high school and a freshman in college to now the Baltic League, where you're going to make $500 a month. Yeah, it's pro basketball, but, that league is financially strapped. There's been one other American that's
Vanderbilt player
going over to that league, was Brad Tinsley in Vanderbilt, correct, and he left the team after a month. So let me just say this. I don't expect them to be with this team for too long.
Right.
LeVar will probably pull them off of that team and probably try another team. I mean, he seems to be a guy that's going to keep trying to do the pawn moves until he can get his kids where he wants them to go. And he wants them to all be in the Laker organization, whether it's on the regular team or the G League. And he's just, it seems, as a guy that's going to keep pulling strings. Listen, it seems like his heart is in the right place, and a lot of people may question the way he's going about it. But, man, at one point you wonder when these two kids are going to look at each other and go, where the hell are we, and what are we doing here?
Yeah, from Southern California to Southern Lithuania at 16 and 19, it's kind of a difference. It's a non-English-speaking village. Only 1,700 seats in the arena. 500 are for sponsors and friends. You just hope for the kids that it works out for them more than anything else.
Off the top.
All right, staying in basketball, after missing the Spurs' first 27 games of the season, Kawhi Leonard expected to make his debut tonight when the team visits the Mavericks.
Yeah, ESPN.com's preseason player ranking, he was third behind only LeBron James and Kevin Durant. We know what a great player he is. We know what a great two-way player he is. And to the credit of San Antonio, which is really a credit to Greg Popovich and the teams he puts together there. They're third in the conference. They're sitting there at 19-8, all 27 games without Kawhi Leonard. LaMarcus Aldridge leading the way with just under 23 points a game. You'd love to see those two because there were questions, about LaMarcus Aldridge when he got there and what, I think a lot of people thought it would be better with the two of them together. We'll see if it can still get there right now, but certainly great to have Kawhi Leonard back. One of the great players. You certainly don't hear a ton from him. Not a real talkative guy, but man, he is fun to watch play.
And again, they've done
fun, I guess, in the term of a great player.
Yes,
because of what he can do offensively and really defensively as well.
Look, they've more than survived without him. They've kind of thrived in a very tough Western Conference. Now you get Kawhi back. We had Jalen Rose on here last week. He thought that was an underappreciated story, and we'll see how they can go in what should be a very loaded Western Conference. But, the Warriors have struggled a little bit. Obviously, Oklahoma City's struggling. It's really more about what Houston has done so far in the Western Conference, and we'll see if Kawhi and company can keep up with them now that he's back. And we finish
off the top.
Well, it's kind of a shocker, but I guess maybe it shouldn't have been. We sort of made fun of it yesterday, but for the third time in 4 tries, the Dolphins defended their home turf against the Patriots, taking down New England 27-20 to snap New England's 14-game road streak, the second longest streak in the NFL. The Patriots went 0 for 11 on third down in the loss, their first game without a third down conversion since 1991. And, Mike, as we wrap up off the top, I think a lot of people just figured, I get it, no Gronk. They got Chris Hogan back. This Miami team had struggled. They've been shut out twice this year, once with Jay Cutler as the starting quarterback and once with Matt Moore as the starting quarterback. And with the way the Patriots' defense had been playing, maybe the Patriots were a little limited on offense, but they figured the defense would take care of it and Brady and company would figure it out. And it just never happened.
No, it did never happen.
27-10 at one point, was it not?
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was. Maybe we should have looked at the stats. Patriots' last 2 road losses have come at Miami. Brady has now lost 4 of his last 5 games in Miami. All of a sudden, Kenyon Drake, who has rushed for over 100 yards in the last 2 games, he had 0 rushing yards in his first 27 career games. He has a big game. Xavier Howard has a couple of interceptions off of Brady. They don't get a running game going at all. And, we can sit here and say without Gronk, they won a Super Bowl without Gronk.
Correct.
They find a way to win games. They're that good, and they deservedly get the benefit of the doubt. So even when they're losing in a game, you expect them to make a move to come back. And this one, they didn't. So you have to tip your cap to the Dolphins and what they were able to do. And by the way, the Dolphins, they're still there.
They've got a chance.
They have a chance, and they've won 2 in a row. We'll see. Their whole thing is they've been inconsistent, led by their quarterback, Jay Cutler, being inconsistent. But he was on last night where Brady threw a couple of interceptions last night, and the defense gave up a lot of rushing yards and a lot of points in this one. So so while we pretty much say New England and Pittsburgh, that we really just can't say New England, right? Because they go to Pittsburgh, and now New England has certainly had Pittsburgh's number. I get it. But boy, oh boy, what a matchup. And that's the thing about it, the AFC. It's really those 2 teams, right?
Yeah.
Can you see another team sneaking up?
Well, Jacksonville beat Pittsburgh earlier this year 30-9. If somehow they finish up with the same record at 12-4, then they would get the seeding over Pittsburgh.
The one thing you look at quarterbacks is what we tend to do, right? And Blake Bortles, who's played well the last couple of games, you just don't trust him to be consistent game in and game out, where you trust that more out of Brady and Ben Roethlisberger. But the Jacksonville defense and the running game, which is one in the league, certainly they deserve, obviously, everything they're getting right now. So do I worry that much about New England? No, because they usually find a way. Is this one of New England's better teams? Probably not. The defense started out bad. They've come along, but, they're not a great defense. Offensively, last year, one of the consistencies was the offensive line. Now they've had some nicks. Brady's been sacked 29 times. They're going up against Pittsburgh, who's second in the league in sacks, and they'll hit the quarterback quite a bit. So that's something that throws New England off its schedule.
Well, speaking of being thrown off their schedule, again, 0 for 11 on third down. Their first game without a third down conversion since 1991. Here was Tom Brady on that offense without suspended tight end Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, he's a great player, so anytime he's out there, it helps us. But we got some other good players, and we try to spread the ball around quite a bit, but just couldn't quite, make enough plays. And I got to throw the ball better, and that's where it starts with me.
Again, just so people understand, when we talk about that stat, 0 for 11 on third down for the first time since 91. That was before they drafted Drew Bledsoe, let alone Tom Brady. I mean, that's a ridiculously long time to go without a single third down conversion in the game. And that's how bizarre this game sort of played out. But you got to give the Dolphins all the credit in the world. They made sure that Tom was never comfortable in that pocket. I mean, that was the most impressive thing about that game.
And that's what Pittsburgh can do as well. Even though Pittsburgh has struggled a bit on the back end, which is something that Tom Brady will try and take advantage of, it's going to be up to that front line and front seven to try and get pressure on Brady. How about this? Over the last 2 games, you know what Brady's QBR has been? It's been 47.7.
Yeah.
That's worse than these guys I'm about to list. Jimmy Garoppolo, Deshaun Kaiser, Mitchell Trubisky, Brett Hundley.
Wow. Well, look,
Riley, do you even feel bad typing that up? It just sounds awful just to type up.
Well, the weird thing about that is that, Hundley, he's been great like in the last few minutes of games, and obviously that skews your QBR because it's a chance to win or tie.
Right.
He's sort of been inconsistent before that, but he's been great closing. But it is interesting over the last 2 games. Not only is QBR, Brady has 1 touchdown pass and 3 interceptions. And before that, just going through all right, let's do it. The last 2 games, he has 3 interceptions and 1 touchdown. In the previous games before that, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So it makes you wonder a little bit.
Not me.
A little bit.
Nope.
Whether or not he's wearing down a little.
I don't.
You don't at all?
No, I do not. I do not. Listen, it's not like he plays every game perfectly.
Correct.
And you have to give the other team, and he's had trouble in Miami before. It's not like that was an outlier. This has happened to him before. So I'm one of those not going down that road just yet. Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Life happens. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit professionally installed for only $49. Call today and install an ADT starter kit that includes security panel, keypad, key fob, entry and motion sensors, and for a limited time, get a camera included and installed at no additional cost. That's a $449 value installed for just $49.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract QSB and EasyPay activation. Early term fees may apply. Certain marks excluded. License available at ADT.com, Florida EF001121, Louisiana F1639.
We continue on Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We got some more football coming up, including Tim Hasselbeck, and Louis Riddick will join us as well in the next hour, talking about what happens going forward with not only the Philadelphia Eagles, but what happens now in that huge showdown coming up next Sunday between the Patriots and the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and how Jacksonville may be the biggest beneficiary out of all of this when it's all said and done. We'll get into all of that, but of course there is big baseball news this week as well, Mike. The baseball winter meetings are going on in Orlando, but the biggest move, without question, took place before the meetings began. Over the weekend, the Yankees and the Marlins agreeing on a trade that sends Giancarlo Stanton, the reigning MVP, to the American League, and he's bringing his 59 homers to go with Aaron Judge's 52 homers from a year ago. Obviously, it looks like another fire sale going forward for the Marlins. It feels like lather, rinse, repeat for them.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and this was something, listen, we had Dan Lebitard on yesterday, and you want to talk about a guy who just sounded disgusted and depressed, yes, with what's going on down there. I mean, listen, you get a nice win out of the Dolphins without question. Still a team that's fighting for its way to even try and get into the playoffs. The Miami Heat had such success when LeBron and Bosh and Wade were all together, and that's gone. And certainly now, with the Marlins, you had the MVP, you had the big bopper out there, and you're basically trading him away, and you kind of had a bad feel. Stanton had some words for management and ownership on the way out. You kind of get the vibe, when you hear reports that they were basically, hey, accept some of these deals or you're going to be a Marlin for life. Like that's a bad thing. I mean, what are Marlin fans down there supposed to cling to? What baseball fans? What are you doing down there to make anybody want to come to your game? And as Dan said, the whole thought was this wasn't going to happen anymore, and it's happening again. So while the Yankees continue on with their greatness and the pressure, certainly of Aaron Boone being a first-time manager, that it's win the World Series with the roster that you have right now.
Or else.
It's the Marlins are like, what are we even going to the ballpark for? Why are we showing up to support this new ownership now and really old ownership and this management for what's going on?
Well, look, they've done this a million times already. Dan perfectly pointed it out on our show yesterday, that they've traded away Ruth twice. Right? For them, Miguel Cabrera was traded away, and the guy that was supposed to replace him, Giancarlo Stanton, has also been traded away. So you've seen the best player walk out the door twice with this same scenario of, hey, we're going to rebuild and start all over again. And the newest Yankee, Giancarlo Stanton, addressed his conversation about the transition from the Marlins to the Yankees and his conversation with Derek Jeter.
We spoke about the direction of the team. I wanted us to go forward and have an advance with the pitching staff. I thought our lineup was legit, and we needed help with our pitchers, and we needed to add rather than subtract. And the way they wanted to go was to subtract. So I let that be known. I didn't want to be a part of another rebuild, another losing season, and that's almost a guaranteed losing season, taking away what I thought was a great lineup. So, yes, I didn't want to be a part of a rebuild.
Yeah. So Gordon's gone. D. Gordon is gone. Stanton's gone. And you heard are you going to start to go in the right direction? And they almost immediately, new ownership, especially Derek Jeter, talked about, hey, we got a bad money situation going on here that we're going to have to take some steps backward to go forward. And it's unfortunately the same song and dance you hear out there. So I feel bad for the South Beach fans right now in what's going on and what you're trying to cling to when you had one of the great draws out there in Stanton. Good dude. I mean, in today's game, of that home run strikeout, this is where we are in baseball right now. This guy leads the league in home runs. So you kind of had all that. And as you heard him say, now, again, it's easier for a guy to say, I want us to build and go forward. They don't have to deal with all the financial ramifications of ownership and that money. I will say that. It's very easy for a player to say, yeah, we just want to get better, and we've seen other plans in other sports and in this sport where you have to do financial things and go backward before you can go forward. It just seems like same song, same dance, in Miami with this team, and you just wonder how long that can be sustained.
Well, look, you could make a very compelling argument that having Giancarlo Stanton in New York is great for the sport of baseball. But you could also make a very compelling argument that it's also terrible for the sport of baseball because what it means to these teams that aren't the Yankees, that aren't the Dodgers, that aren't the Cubs, that aren't the Indians have become a national play on some level now. And how are they going to survive in these kind of environments?
Well, and every now and then, before it was the Miami Marlins, when they were the Florida Marlins, they were a team with about $1.50 payroll, and they won a couple of World Series.
Correct.
So it's like, well, wait a minute. It kind of defeats our conversation of the haves and the have-nots when sometimes the mid-have-nots or the true have-nots end up winning a World Series. They have one of those years, and what did they immediately do then? Is they had fire sales as well. So I don't know the answer to that, but to your point, it is the toughest sport to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that, and I really like that. So many people yelled when the wild card came up, but I think that's worked out extremely well, quite honestly. But you do. You look at teams like this, and you sometimes you say, what are we doing? It was kind of what was going on in basketball, right? If you don't have if you're not Golden State, or you don't have one of the pieces of the puzzle that can maybe help you to kind of stay above water until Golden State comes down a little bit, what are you? What are your fans coming to see?
Right.
If you're one of those teams, it's kind of a weird spot to be in right now, though. Quite honestly, don't say that to basketball. Basketball is flourishing right now.
No, they're up. The viewership is up for us, and because there are a lot of competitive teams. And look, we'll see if that plays out in baseball. But the whole thing just is a bad look for how it went down.
And then Derek Jeter not at the owners' meetings when
and then at the Monday night game.
A lot of people thinking first time. He's what a 4% owner, not a majority owner. But he's the face of that team.
Correct.
He's helping make decisions for that team to not go to that first maybe owners meeting and kind of show your face there. Or we had our own Buster Olney on earlier and talking about how disappointing that was. So, yeah, it seems like an interesting beginning for Derek Jeter jumping into ownership in baseball.
And again, the owners' meeting is continuing in Orlando, and
Right.
we'll see what other shakes may come down out of that. Matt Harvey may be traded. We'll see where the Pirates go with Andrew McCutchen. So there's still lots to be decided there. But there was something decided in golf.
Right.
Starting in 2018, one of the rules that we don't like at all, and I've said forever is ridiculous, that viewers can call or email and text in, and a penalty after a round can be assessed on a player because a viewer saw something that a player or a rules official with that team didn't see. We talked about Tiger and his drop at the 2013 Masters, which cost him 4 strokes on the 15th hole on either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember if it was first or second round. He ended up missing the playoff by 4 strokes. Lexi Thompson essentially got a major taken away for her, where she was assessed a 4-stroke penalty for an improper mark on a ball. There were other ones. Camilo Villegas in 2013 was at the Hyundai Tournament of Champions in Kapalua, which is one of the greatest places on the planet, by the way, after a viewer called in for a violation of him swatting away loose pieces of grass as his ball continued to roll. It was his 29th birthday, so, happy birthday to him. And Patrick Harrington in 2011 disqualified from the Abu Dhabi Championships after an email was sent to the European Tour. And after the email arrived, that one of the senior referees on the European Tour had a sleepless night. He viewed the video evidence about 60 times before concluding, wait, it gets better, that the Harrington's ball had indeed moved forward by the length of about 1.5 dimples. 1.5 dimples.
It blows my mind that there was ever a group in a room that decided that A, talked about this rule, and then B, agreed to this rule and said, yeah, this is a good thing. As I said, the dumbest sport in all of sports.
Dumbest rule in all of sports.
Dumbest rule in all of sports since sports began.
Right, so,
I can't find a dumber rule than this, and I'm glad they finally fixed it.
And if you found a dumber rule, hit us up at Golic and Wingo, and we'll read some of those in the tweets. But so we had a little fun with it. Jerry, our Bitmeister, sort of came to the idea of what happens if this happened in other scenarios besides golf, people actually calling in. And let's say it happened, in football.
Oh, hello there, NFL. This is Tammy Kissel from Green Bay, proud part owner of the Packers, and I wanted to notify you of an error. Possibly an error at the quarterback position? As my grandpappy always says, you could lead a Brett Hundley to a bubbler, but you can't make him have the highest career passer rating in the regular season, the 5th highest postseason passer rating, the best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history, the most touchdown passes of 70-plus yards, the highest touchdown passing percentage in the Super Bowl. What's that, honey? Yeah, okay. Sorry, guys, gotta go out for brats and beer with my hubby, but if you catch my drift, say Roger's that. Okay, bye-bye now.
Wow.
So it's just the idea, it makes no sense in any other sport, which makes it so easy to mock.
No, but in sports and life, people calling in and complaining, it gets very, very interesting when that happens. But boy, oh boy, I would much rather have fun with this like we're doing than to have to deal with the fact that, Jim from Albuquerque called in and told us about, told the officials about this rule violation. As I said before, what goes on in your life that you're sitting and watching a golf tournament to actually call in and report a rules violation? Yeah. It stuns me.
Well, look, they all want to be a part of the process, I guess.
God.
And
then pick up a club and try and swing it.
There you go. Or be the Hawk from Tucson, as he called it. I talked about, I'm never in the fescue, but you guys shanked this one into the rough.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We continue on Golic and Wingo on Golic's 55th birthday. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic on ESPN Radio and ESPN 2. ESPN 2.
There you go. Thought we had a
Went
new station.
a little too quickly there.
Yeah.
Look who's here with us.
Look who's here.
Timmy!
Looks so nice, too.
Timmy Hasselbeck.
Oh, it's the new network. New
about the
station.
Olympics, Pyeongchang.
Yeah.
Was going for.
There you go.
I was really concerned about what's going on there. Tim Hasselbeck joins us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay. You are someone who knows Nick Foles' predicament. You've been a backup quarterback that's had to sort of come into it. Did you ever have to come into a situation like this when the team was rolling like this? Okay.
No, never did. But I was on a team where, Donovan McNabb was kind of rolling, and he breaks his ankle, and it was a team that was certainly favorited in the NFC. Corey Detmer came in and played at one point, and then A.J. Feely came in and played at one point, and A.J. Feely played great. Now, the team knew that Donovan was going to come back at some point, but basically A.J. Feely played well enough to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The Eagles ended up hosting the NFC Championship that year.
Right. So however it works for a quarterback, and whether it's the offensive coordinator, head coach, whatever, whenever you have that meeting Tuesday, probably Monday, Tuesday, about the upcoming game. So what it was with Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, now it's going to be Doug Peterson and whoever and Nick Foles. How does that meeting go? What changes as far as how you approach how you're going to call a game with Nick Foles as opposed to Carson Wentz?
Well, I think, first off, what Doug Peterson did yesterday was basically say to everybody, look, we believe in Nick Foles. And I think that Doug Peterson has that conversation with Nick, saying, look, we have you here for a reason. We think you can play. We think you can play like a starter. And so don't think for 1 minute that we're here basically just going to walk around with our head down because Carson Wentz isn't here anymore. I think that conversation happens first, without a doubt, especially from Doug, who's been a backup before and understands what it was like to back somebody up that was a really good player. I think they will then have a conversation about the stuff that Nick's comfortable with, some of the concepts that they do, some of the things that are, and it maybe doesn't happen right away. It probably happens as the week goes on and you start to game plan, but you start to have conversations about what do you like? What concepts do you like? Right. What things have we been doing? Are you not comfortable with because you haven't done in the past? And so I think because of that, those are the conversations that you have.
How do you think it will change? I mean, with Carson Wentz, he's a guy who his escapability has been such a monster thing. So now that's not Nick Foles' game. So how in your mind does the play calling change in this game?
Well, think about their run game. A lot of their run game is that zone read look,
right.
And they will run the zone read and kind of like today's version of the triple option, where they run the zone read and then they'll throw it out to the flat to a wide receiver that's out there. Think about the Alshon Jeffrey touchdown earlier this year. It was off of a zone read. I think that stuff has to go away with Nick Foles, to be honest with you. And then you just look at, if you think about just maybe some of the, plays that'll stick out in your head this year for Philadelphia offensively. I know Trey talked about it yesterday on NFL Primetime. It's week 1 against the Washington Redskins, the escape play, long touchdown to Aguilar. The Monday Night Football play where Gruden's talking about him looking like Houdini with the escape play. That stuff goes away as well. He created offense with the stuff he was able to do off schedule, and Foles can't do that. That's not his game. And so offensively, you just have to be more efficient, in terms of how that offense runs, and the ball needs to come out on time.
All right, assuming they need to win, continue to win, to lock down home field advantage.
Okay.
Best case scenario for them with Nick Foles at quarterback. They play at the Giants this week, then they have a home game Monday night against the Raiders, and they finish up home against the Cowboys. What's the best case scenario for them with Foles at quarterback? Can they win all 3?
I think they can win all 3. Zeke will be back, assuming, that's the situation, playing Dallas at the end of the year. But, a Giants team that is obviously in all types of disarray, a Raiders team that just hasn't been competitive. They said their door's blown off by the Chiefs. And so, I think they can win 3 games. And look, I think it'll be important for Foles to go into the postseason with some success in the regular season. It's been a while since he's played well.
Yeah. All right, listen, you and I have worked together for how long now?
Close to 9 years, I believe.
Okay.
I know where you're going. We have an important anniversary coming up.
We do. He knows. Today is December 12th.
Yes, it is.
It's a big day.
On December 14th in 2004,
yep,
my man Tim Hasselbeck did something that only 67 quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League have ever done.
67 quarterbacks, some of them really good ones.
You're on a list that includes Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, and Archie Manning on this list.
Some other guys. Jeff Garcia's
Jeff
on
Garcia's
the list.
on there. Let's see. Rex Grossman, Joey Harrington.
What is it?
Trent Dilfer, Ryan Leaf, Warren Moon is on this list.
Yeah,
Terry Bradshaw is on
I like
this
to
list.
focus on the Warren Moon, Terry Bradshaw, Mannings.
The Manning.
Of that group.
So you have something in common with the Mannings. It was
I do.
on December 14th, 2003, that our man Tim Hasselbeck played the Dallas Cowboys and lost 27-0, racking up a 0 passer rating game.
Yep.
I don't think there's any doubt because
not easy to do.
You and I were doing NFL Live then. There's no doubt we talked about
Oh,
that.
absolutely, we talked about it.
There's no doubt we badmouthed you at that point.
You know what? And I'm sure that you guys were wearing like really baggy pleated pants.
Oh, I was. I was.
And you had some type of like extra padding around your neck during that
I
time.
can't confirm I was wearing clown pants.
Yes, could you confirm that?
Look at that.
I mean, listen, it was what I've realized is it's been really hard on me. It's been hard for me to get over that, over the years. But what I'm starting to realize too, I'm just to try to get myself out of the embarrassment of that night. Is who my play caller was?
Who?
Hugh Jackson.
Wow.
Really?
Whoa, so just saying, guys.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I confess he did it.
Hey, maybe it wasn't all on me.
There you go.
Maybe it wasn't all on me. I mean, can I get a little love there?
Absolutely.
No, can I?
Yes, you can. And I do love the company you're keeping with some of the people on that list.
He's a Manning. Tim's a Manning.
Yeah.
Listen, we do this all the time. We appreciate it. We'll see you on NFL Live today.
See you, man.
Yes, you will.
All right, NFL Live today, and Louis Riddick is on the way, and Golic keeps running into cakes. We have too much cake.
Woo! Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated and confusing, but there is a better way to buy, and that's with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets at every type of live event. Whether you're searching for a last-minute deal, planning a night out, or need to find the perfect gift, SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing quite like seeing your favorite team or musician in person, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone. It's by far the easiest way I found to shop for tickets. I could be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever and to get you the most bang for your buck. SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Best of all, my listeners get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code WINGO today. That's promo code WINGO, $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
Sport Clips Haircuts Holiday Halftime Giveaway has cash for you this holiday season. Sport Clips is giving away $500 every day until December 15th. Visit sportclips.com/holiday to enter for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/15. Must be 18 or older to enter. Subject to official rules at sportclips.com/holiday. Void where prohibited.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Glad you're with us. It is Mike Golic's 55th birthday.
Yes, it is. I'm the double nickel today.
So that's why we are playing
55.
There you go.
Yeah, all that stuff. And that's why we brought in 36. I said, I feel like I'm 36. So Trey asked everybody out there, what should I still be able to do if I was a 36-year-old former professional athlete? Get some good ones out there. Some things I think I can do and can't do. But to kind of move this on just from me, let's actually go to when I was born, okay?
Let's do it.
December 12th, 1962. It was a Wednesday. Under the sign of Sagittarius. The U.S. president was John F. Kennedy. In that week of December, people in the U.S. were listening to Big Girls Don't Cry by the Four Seasons.
Wow.
Love that tune. Return to Sender by Elvis Presley was in the top 5 hits, and his film, Girls, 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 was number 1 at the box office. On television, you know it had just debuted a couple of months earlier?
No.
The Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, wow. Poor Mountaineer barely kept his family fed.
I share a birthday with Frank Sinatra, Bob Barker, Jennifer Connelly, to name a few.
All right.
Others who are also 55 this year. Tom Cruise, Steve Carell, Jim Carrey, Wesley Snipes, MC Hammer, Demi Moore, Paula Abdul, Jodie Foster. Nice crew, right?
Yeah, that's a good-looking
crew.
crew.
With a good crew.
How
Nice.
about this? How about players, the best players to wear the number 55? Major League Baseball, Oral Hershiser. Of course, he had his great moment during the 88 season. and he led the NFL in wins that year. Had his season with finished the season 59 consecutive shutout innings to break Don Drysdale's long-standing mark. 55s. There are plenty of 55s in the NFL. One of them comes to mind, Junior Seau.
Right.
Obviously, great 12-time Pro Bowler. 92 Defensive Player of the Year for the Chargers, by the way, who that year started 0-4 and made the postseason.
Yes,
and
they
it's
did.
a very real chance that they could do that again this year as the LA Chargers. NHL Larry Murphy, 55-year-old, during his days for the Minnesota and Pittsburgh Penguins. And then the finger shaker,
Dikembe Mutombo, wore number 55. And how about on these day in sports, December 12th, you go back to 1976, Joe Namath played his last game as a Jet.
Yeah.
December 12th, 1976. December 12th, 1965, Gale Sayers of the Bears scored 6 touchdowns, tying an NFL record, and could have scored more.
I believe he was taken out either late in the third or early in the fourth quarter when he had a chance to go for 7, maybe 8. I mean, he was all over the field that day.
And this one, I actually like this one the best. On this date, December 12th, 1949, the American League actually voted to try and legalize the spitball, but it was rejected 7-1. There was an actual vote to see if you would legalize the spitball in baseball, and December 12th, 1949, voted down 7-1.
They got one vote.
How about that?
They got one vote.
Who's the guy who voted that? That's awesome.
Was it the
same guy who wanted?
Was it Phil Necro's family?
The same guy who
Phil and Joe Necro's family, maybe.
Same guy who voted in the let somebody at home call into a golf tournament and get somebody in trouble for it.
Well, we got rid of that one.
Thank God.
We got rid of that one, and we're moving forward again. We'll get to that a little bit more in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously there's been a lot of reaction to not only the Monday night game and the injury to Carson Wentz, but what happened with Tom Savage.
Yes.
The Texans quarterback, who, of course, he fell back in the end zone, was being tackled, and he hit his head on the ground, and you saw his arm sort of lock up in what's called the fencer's position or fencer's pose, which is an indication that there has been a serious neurological event. If you're a fighter and that happens, fight's done.
Fight's
you're
over.
Out. You're done.
Right.
However, it was the protocol was messed up because he was allowed back in the game after a little review during the blue tent, and then they noticed other symptoms, and then they went in for the deeper SCAT-5 concussion test in the locker room, and then he was ruled out for the rest of the game. And the UNC, or INC, as they're calling it, the unaffiliated or independent neurological consultant, is supposed to have access to that video. And they do have access to that video. For somehow it wasn't, maybe it wasn't put in place. I know the NFLPA and the NFL have launched a joint investigation into this, because if you see that video, you there's no way you can say, yeah, we're putting that guy back in the game before we do a deep dive on the concussion situation beyond the blue tent. And actually, Bill O'Brien, the Texans head coach, came under some fire about that. But as the head coach, you don't have a say in that. That goes to the medical staff. They have to make their decisions, and then you, based on their information that they give you, because you're worried about everything else, you decide what's best for him and what's best for the team and how you're going to play it forward. And Bill O'Brien finally got around to seeing that video for the first time, and this is what he had to say after he saw it.
Figured that he got hit, really didn't know that he got hit. There's 12 bodies around him. Very, very difficult from the 50-yard line where I'm standing to see if he even got hit. With benefit of the video, which I do not have benefit of any video, there's no video on the sideline. All there are tablets. There's no video. There's nothing like that. With benefit of seeing the video, obviously from my standpoint, the care for the player, I would have never let that player back in the game, and I don't believe that Jeff Kaplan would have allowed that player back in the game. I don't have benefit of the video. I did not see anything.
Well, so here's what it comes down to, and I agree with him. This isn't on the head coach. The head coach has to get ready for the next play or what's going on next, or the rest of his team to see that hit or make a determination on whether that player can go back in the game. We've had countless current head coaches and former head coaches on that have basically said, when it gets to medical, we wait for the medical people to tell us that guy's a yay or a nay to go back in the game. And just so you understand the rules, the spotters up in the booth have the ability to look at the video. The doctors on the field, so when you're in that blue tent area, the doctors on the field have the ability to look at that replay. Coaches are not allowed. They are not allowed to look at football replays on the sideline, but the doctor can. So to me, we can say simply in this, that's what it comes down to. Two things. Did anybody see that tape? And if neither the spotter nor the doctor, the people that are allowed to see that replay, didn't, what the hell's going on?
Why didn't they?
And if they did and saw the, as they call it, the fencing response with the arm in the air, to which we have been basically hearing from those in the medical profession to say, oh yeah, that's a sign of something bad going on. If they did see it, how they let him, you just do that basic test in the blue tent and say, oh yeah, you're good to go. I mean, there was a mess up somewhere, and I put it on those doctors, the independent doctor, if you want, the spotters, whoever had the ability to look at that tape. If they did and you put them back in the game, or for some reason you didn't, why you didn't, that's what I want to know. To me, Bill O'Brien is not responsible for this.
Right, and that's why the NFLPA and the NFL have launched a joint investigation on this, because there was clearly a mess-up somewhere from the spotter to the unk or the ink and how the process was being played, because that video is available to them. And quite frankly, the NFLPA is upset. They want to know why this hasn't worked. And there is going to be a ruling coming down either today or tomorrow on what happened a few weeks earlier when Russell Wilson of the Seahawks in a Thursday night game against Arizona was taken off the field after he sort of got hit under the chin, and he was sort of wincing a little bit. He didn't really show any woozy symptoms.
But the doctor or the referee sent him off the field.
You need to go. So he went off, and he sat down, and they were putting up the tent. And before he could even take his helmet off and get thoroughly checked out in the blue tent, he ran back onto the field. So there is going to be a ruling coming down on that either today or tomorrow, and we'll see what either the fine, suspension, whatever that penalty will be. Won't be a suspension, but whatever the fine or penalty will be for the Seahawks going forward in that. But it is important to point out, as we are criticizing how it failed Tom Savage in Houston, it has worked many times this season as well. Take, for example, what started Week 14, the Thursday night game between the Saints and the Falcons. On the first drive, the Saints and that two-headed monster running back duo of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara were moving up and down the field, and Kamara got hit close to the goal line. Might have been a first and goal, I'm not sure. A helmet to helmet. He was immediately spotted. They took him off the field. They went him through the process. They didn't like what they saw in the tent. They took him straight down into the locker room, and he was done for the game. So it has worked. The question is, you can't mess around with making sure it doesn't work occasionally. You got to make sure this works. If it's about the safety of the players, this has to work first and foremost.
And all the time you hear the league getting ripped on, well, if you're truly about the safety of the players, and I think there are people that would believe that they are, depending on where on that list you think it may fall as far as the health of the players. But if you're going to make rules that it's supposed to embody, we're doing this for the health of the player, and you find a misstep in this, you got to penalize harsh. You have to. You have to say, listen, we have put this in place because we're finding more and more out about the head injury, which can be devastating to people. We have put protocols in place, and if you're not following them, they have to be hammered for that. They have to be if you want this to have any teeth at all.
Yeah, and again, one of those penalties could be coming out in the next couple of days. By the way, Tom Savage has actually tweeted something in support of his head coach. He said, listen, I'm fine. Thanks for all your concerns. I can't really speak as I'm in the concussion protocol, but I will say no one cares more about their players than OB, talking about his head coach, Bill O'Brien. So we'll see what happens going forward with that one as the investigation is beginning. The investigation is pretty much concluded on that Thursday night game a few weeks ago, and we'll find out what happens there.
And someone else bring it up, and I get it. Alicia says the ref was standing right over Savage. He saw something was wrong. The ref bent over to see if he was okay. Why didn't he stop Savage from coming back on the field? That's not his job, Alicia. He's not a medical person. What he does, just like the referee did for Russell Wilson, is
send him off
the field. Now it goes to doctors. The ref's not a doctor. So he has to trust the medical profession that says if they feel this guy can get back on the field, that referee is not in a position to stop him. So there's no way I would put it on the ref. I would put it more on the ref if he didn't send Savage off the field. Then when Savage was cleared by the medical profession to come back on the field, that is no longer the referee's. I don't think it's within his purview to say you can't come back on the field.
No, you're right. The ref did his job. His job was to get the player off the field.
Right.
And now then it's up to the medical profession and the spotters and the neurologists to figure out what happened there, and we'll see what happens going forward. By the way, there was another huge game on Sunday that hasn't gotten talked about as much as the Rams and the Eagles for a lot of reasons because of the injury to Carson Wentz and what that meant at the top of the division. But the Seahawks-Jaguars game was a really important game. It was a statement win for Jacksonville, but it got ugly at the end of that game with Quentin Jefferson, a Seahawks defensive tackle, trying to go into the stands after fans were throwing bottles of beer at him as he was walking off the field. There was a little melee when the Seahawks didn't really want to think that the game was over in the victory formation. They were trying to go for the ball, which I understand. In a one-score game, they were down 30-24, and Michael Bennett sort of rolled up on the back of the Jag center after the play was over, and it looked a little cheap. Adam Schefter tweeted out he didn't think there would be any ejections from that. I'm kind of surprised.
No fines. We know a couple of players
no
got
suspensions.
No suspensions. We don't know about fines, but no suspensions. I quite honestly didn't think any would happen. The one I thought would Michael Bennett for rolling on the back of Linder's knees, the center, after he tried to swipe at the ball. He kept going to roll on the knees. So that was a thought. Would that happen? And then certainly with Jefferson going into the stands. And I know with Quentin Jefferson, he would say to the league, listen, I got stuff thrown at me. And I think the league response, I think you would be told, listen, those people need to be dealt with by the security of the stadium. That is absolutely not right by them to do that. That all being said, you can't go into the stand. Right. You can't do it. We don't need a
malice in the palace.
We can only punish from our side. You know, that team in Jacksonville and their security and the stadium have to take care of those fans. We have to take care of the players that represent the NFL, and we can't have you going in the stand. So I thought he might have been suspended for that, but it turns out he won't. We'll see if any fines come out from this, but I did think we would get some suspensions. I thought Bennett may be. For a game, based off I don't think it was anywhere near what Gronk did or what Mike Evans did with the viciousness and the speed at which those guys did what they did. But I didn't know if they would give him a game that he could maybe appeal down to a fine, or Jefferson again for going into the stands. But it looks like no suspensions coming out of this. So I would imagine that won't put the league in a real positive light with some people.
Correct. Golic and Wingo, presented by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade, whatever you want, for a fraction of the price. Join Dollar Shave Join DollarShaveClub.com today.
There you go.
Big breaths. Big breaths. The other thing in that Jacksonville game, which is interesting, and a lot of people, and I thought about this as I was coming into work today, and I immediately said, no, that's not right. I was thinking, hey, if the Steelers win against the Patriots, they will have locked up home field advantage and can chill for a couple of games and then the bye week. But that's not the case.
No, it's not.
Because that would only get Pittsburgh 12 wins. Jacksonville has 9 wins against 4 losses. Jacksonville beat Pittsburgh earlier this year 30-9. So there's still a scenario out there that would allow Jacksonville to not only get into the playoffs for the first time since 2007, I think, win their division. Mm-hmm. There's also a chance, if the Patriots continue to stumble and the Steelers don't get more than 12 wins, if Jacksonville wins out, they could end up being the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. How likely do you see that scenario?
Well, by the way, they could also lose the division.
Correct.
And Tennessee could be the reason. They played Tennessee the last game of the season, and Tennessee is 1 loss away from Jacksonville, and Tennessee has won the first game of that series, the second game of the season. So Tennessee could sweep and end up with the same record as Jacksonville and take the division. Jacksonville finishes up at home to Houston, at San Francisco, and then at Tennessee. But I don't see Jacksonville. Well, I mean, listen, either both New England and Pittsburgh are going to have 3 losses after this weekend, or
if New England wins.
That's what I mean. If New England wins, or as I was going to say, or Pittsburgh is still going to have that 2 loss. I don't see Jacksonville getting home field throughout this.
Right.
As I said, they have to take care of their business just to win the division right now, and obviously Tennessee has some making up to do. But a lot of people, I don't know if I didn't. I know Greeny did. I don't know if you did. Pick Jacksonville last year to win the division. A lot of people did.
I was high. I was off by a year.
That's exactly right. And that's basically, and I could see it last year. You kind of saw what they were getting on defense with the draft and with free agents and the direction they were going. But, man, they look good. Bortles has played well the last couple of games. So I do not think they're going to have enough to have home field throughout. But they have been obviously one of the great stories this year.
Well, the reason why it bodes well against them, let's assume that the Patriots lose Sunday in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Their last 2 games, I believe, are against the Jets and the Bills, if I'm not mistaken, with New England. And both of those games are in Foxborough. So it would be hard. Now, I get it. They've lost 2 games at home already this year, but
That
was way early. That was in
they
September.
They finish up both home games, Buffalo and the Jets, yes.
All right, so, again, right now the strongest path is with Pittsburgh.
Right.
But they to lock it down, assuming that Jacksonville doesn't lose again, they've got to get to 13 wins.
They do.
I think they have the Browns as well one last time, so that certainly works in their favor. The other thing to keep your eye on here going forward is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is eligible to return from injured reserve and play at Carolina, but there's been no decision yet about whether or not he will. Packers head coach Mike McCarthy said Rodgers is undergoing tests and is now being evaluated by the team physician. Again, this is different from a few years ago when it was his left non-throwing collarbone that was broken. This was his right collarbone that was broken in the game in Minnesota. We've seen him warming up the last couple of games on the field, throwing the ball, and that's why that victory was so important for the Packers and Brett Hundley this past weekend against Cleveland, because that kept them alive.
Yes, it did.
Actually, with Minnesota losing, it still keeps the division in place should Minnesota completely fall apart, which we don't think is going to happen. But now there's all kinds of scenarios. How much do you need to know that you're in the hunt, and how secure do you need to be about Aaron Rodgers' collarbone to think, yeah, let's throw him out there?
Well, I mean, listen, they're playing Carolina. Carolina's in the first wild card position right now. They're 9-4, while the Packers are 7-6. So it could pull them to within a game of Carolina there. But the last 3 games, Trey, for Green Bay are tough. At Carolina, home to Minnesota, and at Detroit. So those are all, teams that are obviously in Minnesota leading that division. Detroit, they're just on the outside looking into Carolina in right now. So those are 3 tough games for the Packers. I don't see the Packers making it in this year. I don't. Even if Rodgers comes back, remember, he's got some rust he would have to kick off. So, and they're playing some very, very good teams, especially this first one at Carolina. That's going to be a tough one.
They are, and he's got some rust. But, of course, he came back for Week 17, 2013, against the Bears in Chicago with the division on the line, and all he did was torch him, including a huge
He is good
huge
like
win.
that.
Yeah,
he is good like that.
A huge throw down the stretch, really a Hail Mary to set him up for the go-ahead score. So I'm not going to put anything past Aaron Rodgers. If he's healthy, I'm sure they want to trot him out there and see what he can do. All right, when we come back, Louis Riddick will join us, help us sort out the NFC and explain how the Patriots lost last night, what it means to them in the long term, and maybe what it means for the Dolphins.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Life happens. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit professionally installed for only $49. Call today and install an ADT starter kit that includes security panel, keypad, key fob, entry and motion sensors, and for a limited time, get a camera included and installed at no additional cost. That's a $449 value installed for just $49.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSB, and EasyPay. Activation and early term fees may apply. Certain marks excluded. License available at ADT.com, Florida EF001121, Louisiana F1639.
Rolling on with Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Glad you're hanging out with us on this Tuesday morning, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But as always, delighted to have our NFL office insider, Louis Riddick, here with us to talk about a myriad of things. And let's start with the Monday night game. The Patriots have been on, an 8-game winning streak. They'd looked, quite frankly, like they were just rolling over people, either with great offense or great defense, whatever they needed. They go down to Miami, which historically has been a problem for them. I get it. They didn't have Gronk. But, Louis, that was a second straight game where Tom was not Tom Brady-like. He has 3 interceptions and 1 touchdown pass over the last 2 games. I sort of alluded to it earlier today. The big picture, does everybody thinking to themselves in the NFL, wait a minute, they may not be this uber super team we've been talking about all year long.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a chance.
Yeah, Trey, I think everybody thought that this year that they weren't necessarily invincible. But last night you saw a lot of things come together, and that when you play pretty well, you can give them problems.
Right.
Meaning this, when they can't control the middle of the field with Gronk, and it's more so an outside the numbers game, get up on the wide receivers and challenge them. You saw what your guy from Baylor was doing. You saw Xavier Howard. Look, that's what they're doing. What you're seeing on the screen right now is what you got to do. You can't let them play the finesse 7-on-7 type game because they're too quick, too fast. You have to challenge Brandon Cooks. You have to be physical with him. You have to make referees call pass interference down the field and put your hands on these guys. And your safety's got to range to the football and make plays. 2, rush the passer. Get after their tackles. Push the pocket. The Dolphins, no one ever said the Dolphins didn't have some good defensive linemen. They just don't always play hard. But when they do, this is the result that you get. And then 3, on defense, the second level of their defense and the first level of their defense can have some issues. 1, they're not great pass rushers, and they're missing Trey Flowers last night. 2, the linebackers don't have a lot of speed, and they don't have Kyle Van Noy last night. Kenyon Drake has a lot of speed. He's a matchup problem. Le'Veon Bell's a matchup problem. Antonio Brown, last year, they did a good job of shutting him down, keeping him under control in the AFC Championship game. They're going to have to play much better in the secondary next week than they did last night. Otherwise, it's going to be another team going, we're going to have home field now.
For those that are looking for Tom Brady to not play well and say, see, he can't play great at 40, are you buying into any of that at all?
No.
Neither am I.
No. I mean, last night, you say, like, I know a couple times, I had someone mention to me, well, why is he holding the ball so long? It's like, well, you see, number 1, you can't see the all 22, and 2,
his
open. Guys are covered.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? He don't want to throw it up just to throw it up. So that means, like last time when they were asking Bill questions and he's sitting there giving you he was classic last night in that post-game classic. He's sitting there. Look, Bill is an execution guy, and really, that's really what he wants to tell you. But it's like you're almost like insulting him by going, "Well, what happened?" He's like, "Well, didn't you watch the game? We didn't play good.
Yeah, we didn't convert a third down.
Exactly." And you know what? And they're going to have to play much better, man. They're going to play much better against Pittsburgh. Or you're right. Look, Trey, I think everybody sees the Patriots as being beatable once you get past the mystique and thinking that we can't beat you. Hey, they put their uniform on just like everyone else. But you can best believe this, though. They'll play their best game next week. They'll play their best game against the Steelers.
Going to need it.
Yeah. Well, listen. This game means nothing if they beat Pittsburgh. It really does. And you know, Bill, he's on to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
The question then becomes going forward: how much of this was the geography in terms of they always seem to struggle in Miami, and the fact that Gronk wasn't there, and how much of this maybe can sort of translate into continuing problems for this offense? Because again, the last 2 weeks, it hasn't been that efficient up-tempo offense that we've seen.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Bill in this regard. I don't care what happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Totally different teams, totally different circumstances. They've lost to him in the beginning of the season. They've lost to him in the end of the season. It's always different. What is a continuing issue, though, is speed at linebacker for them can be a problem. If you have a fast, dynamic running back who can be a matchup issue, you might be able to get them on the second level. Their offensive line, Tom has taken a lot of hits.
Mm-hmm.
If you have good edge pass rushers, you can get after them. They have problems being healthy at right tackle, and Nate Solder has been inconsistent at left tackle. And their wide receivers, again, if you will get up and challenge them and you have some guys who can run, you can give them problems. If you lay back and play soft zone, play cover 4, play cover 2, play soft top-down fire zone defense like the Steelers did last year in the AFC Championship, Tom's going to rip you apart for about 400, complete about 75% of the passes. You're going to go, what happened? So don't do those things.
Yeah, to your point on the line, Cannon, the right tackle had a nice year last year for them.
Yeah.
Not in there. Fleming was in there last night, and you're going up to Jacksonville team that's second in the league in sacks. So, whether it's sacks or hits on Brady and get him off his mark. So moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles, Carson Wentz goes down. He's out for the year. Nick Foles in. I don't think anybody expects some massive offensive change.
Mm-hmm.
How, in your mind, does play calling now differ going forward?
I mean, it's going to be huge now. Now it's going to be, like, even though rush percentage-wise, they're in the low to mid-40s in terms of how many plays they call running the football, that probably needs to tick up even a little bit more. And as the game goes, look, in this game against the Rams, the game was, like, tightly contested, and they were throwing the ball almost 2-1 versus running it because Carson's so good. You can't get into that mode with Nick Foles. He has to stay back. You cannot get into a pass-heavy game with him. Otherwise, the reason why Nick is a backup is going to come forth, and you're going to have some problems. So they're going to have to rely on Jay Ajayi, rely on LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement. I mean, that's what they're there for. That's why they're one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. So keep it balanced. Play to the strength of your defense. Play to the strength of your special teams. You'll give yourself a chance to win. That's going to be all on Doug. Doug's going to have to be aware of that, and he knows that. He played quarterback.
Right.
So he knows what will help Nick the most.
All right, Louis Riddick with us in studio, giving us a Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. So best case scenario for the Eagles is what? If they need to keep winning to lock down home field advantage, they've got the Giants on the road and then 2 home games against the Raiders and the Cowboys. Can they go 3-0?
Yeah, they can. But again, it can't be one of those games where, they can mess around on offense, kind of get outside of who they need to be now and still win the game because they have a unique quarterback. Now it's truly going to be, it's just going to be on Doug Peterson to make sure that he keeps Nick honest with the run game and keeps the play action game going, and everything will roll from there. And the defense is going to have to carry its weight. Special teams is going to have to carry its weight. Yeah, they could run the table and finish the season 3-0 in this stretch for sure. But it's just not going to be as easy. The margin for error, as we always talk about, has shrunk dramatically.
Yeah, and listen, the bottom line is they were the favorites. And they had an MVP caliber quarterback.
Sure.
Now they don't have that MVP caliber quarterback anymore. They need a running game, but they can't run read options because that's not fooling anybody. Right. Nobody thinks Nick Foles is going to pull the ball and run. Mm-hmm. So don't waste your time doing that. So I agree with you. That's why it's more on a Doug Peterson on how he's going to call this game and to let Nick Foles kind of spread it around. Obviously, a thing that helps is he's not coming in cold like he did in this game. He gets the whole week running the number one, sits down with Doug, probably today and start to go over the game plan. And I think we're seeing in today's game more than anything else, Louis, where that offensive coach is really talking with the quarterback about what do you like?
Yeah.
What do you want? How can we frame this so it's going to be more comfortable for you?
Yeah, and this is really Doug's third time with Nick. He was there when we drafted him in Philadelphia before he left to go to Kansas City, where he actually had him again, and now he has him. So, look, he is very, very, very familiar with Nick. He was one of the people who wanted to draft him when we were in Philly. He really liked his skill set. So he knows there is no familiarity issue. There is no getting to know him issue. Really, it's going to be, as I like to say, when Doug straps in the cockpit and puts the headset on and he's looking at that big sheet, you can't just go, you know what? We should run it here, but I'm going to throw it because I've got Carson. No, run it. And when they get 2 yards and it's 2nd and 8, and then you get 2 more, don't go away from it because you're going, but we're not getting 4 a clip. We're not getting 5. Now I have to. You know how coordinators do that, right? They just start.
Oh, yeah.
He needs to stay within himself so Nick can stay within himself because it's not a familiarity issue. He knows what Nick's limitations are, and if you make him throw it 50 times, you're in trouble.
Right. Louis Riddick here with us. All right, here's a question now. With the injury to Wentz, obviously there's a concern for the Eagles and how they're going to play out going forward. Case Keenum was beat up a little bit because the offensive line was missing at one point, I think, 3 starters for the Vikings in that game against Carolina. And then you have the Rams, which looked like they had that game, and then they sort of gave it away toward the end with the turnover. Chris Long making a great play, and then Foles doing his job. But now they've got to go to Seattle. Okay, they've already lost their home game to Seattle, and so we're looking at a team that the Rams, had they won that game against Philadelphia, would have been in the number 1 seed, and now they're a loss away from maybe being a wild card. Which team in the NFC, and then there's the Saints as well, which is lost. They lost the Thursday night game to start this all off at Atlanta. Which one of these teams that had been on an unholy roll, all these guys that sort of been rolling, which team are you most concerned about now in the NFC?
Wow. Well, of those 3, if you're talking about, the Rams, Seahawks, Saints, I don't.
Vikings.
You know what? I think the one. Look, I'm not really that concerned about the Saints only because you always have confidence in Drew Brees, and you're always going to defer to the fact that when they need it the most, he's going to probably come through for them. All right? I would probably say this. I'm a little bit concerned about the Rams only because, one, Jared is still as fantastic as I think he is. He still has to prove and is going to have to prove that when they need it the most, to go up to Seattle in particular, he's going to have to play his very, very best. And look, they were one Cooper Kupp drop away from maybe beating Seattle at home in L.A. anyway.
Yep.
So he's going to have to prove that. Number 2, the defense is going to have to prove that they can make plays and make stops when necessary, particularly in the secondary and at corner. That's what I'm a little bit worried about with them. They're going to have look. Seattle has good receivers. They don't have great receivers, but they're going to have to prove to me on defense that they can shut down people when they need to shut them down, and Jared make big plays when they need to make big plays. They're probably the team I worry about the most, only because they're so green still in this kind of scenario. I'm not really worried about Minnesota in the sense that, well, their defense is just, they're ballers, man. And their offense, they can run the football, and Mike Zimmer's a fantastic coach. So I would say I'm worried about the Rams, but because, you guys know why I'm worried about the Rams, because they're like my adopted team.
You have been all in since week 1.
We keep asking this to any former player that comes in here. Snow game, like it or hate it, playing it.
I hate being cold, period. So, no.
You played in Cleveland.
I know, and I, you know what, Trey? There were times where I was talking. RC Clark was talking about, how he feels like, he may have cried a little bit sometimes in those games where it was so cold, where you're literally sitting there going, "Why? You're actually have a tear coming out. There were some times in Cleveland where you were sitting there on the sideline going, this is just not even right. This is abuse out here, how cold it is.
How about that?
And I hate that. I hate cold.
And then you go through that game, and then you go to overtime.
Oh, my, are you kidding me?
You better win it.
I mean,
you better win
but
it.
you know what? That game looked fun but I'm not with getting wet and staying cold. Nah.
Yeah, he's not a part of it.
Put me in the South.
All right,
man.
climate-controlled Louis Riddick with us on Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I'll see you later on today on NFL Live.
Thanks, man.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We are having some fun at the idea that golf for all these years could have viewers call in, which I hate. As a huge golf fan and a purist on some level, I've hated it for years.
It's horrible
that a fan can call in because not everybody's on TV, so not everybody's going to get the same amount of coverage. So it's just not fair.
That person should have to be publicly made aware of who they were.
Well, not only that, it's like people that have a fake Twitter account.
Oh.
It's like, what do you do? Why is that something you want to achieve in life?
Can't stand it.
So anyway, we had some fun.
Yep.
You can no longer call in and correct rules. So we had a couple. We played a little later. A fake PGA guy. We had someone call in. Bills didn't like the snowplow. Also, a Packers owner called in about something. What if someone called in and didn't like something on the way we did this show? Like this guy.
Hey guys, Bubba, Bristol, Connecticut. I got a few complaints for you guys. Let me just start with the most pressing one. Seems to be a big issue turning the mics on and off, which is kind of surprising as you've been doing the show for 18-plus years. Trey, I get it, you're new, but grow up. Just push the on-off button. It's not hard. Then again, maybe the board op's fault. Sea-Dog, clean up your act. I think you need some veteran board op leadership out there. Also, maybe bring back Love It or Shove It.
Wow.
Because that was Bubba who does Love It or Shove It.
Yes, it is.
Or, I'm sorry, did Love It or Shove It.
We do have some issues with the on-off button. Because they even asked us at the beginning when we started, they said, do you guys want to control your own button or do you want Cliff to do it? Yeah. I'm like, listen, at that point I never knew Cliff. I'm not trusting him with anything.
But now we trust Cliff with everything after the music.
Now,
by the way,
exactly
I'm on Team Cliff as opposed to Team Bubba with the board op. It's not his fault, it's ours. We also had this person call in to complain.
Hey guys, it's Mike from West Hartford, Connecticut. Just wanted to notify you guys of an error that I saw on your little morning show there. I got to tell you, this Golic Jr. guy, real piece of work. I don't know who he thinks he is with these earbuds, but they're not studio quality. He needs to have a little bit more respect for the medium. I saw him get caught eating the other day. I don't know what kind of operation ESPN's running, but that seems like it's against the rules. Sends the show off the rails with his constant shenanigans, his millennialism. He thinks he knows everything, and it's just really off-putting. And I just hate seeing the fact that your guys' show has succumbed to this kind of nonsense from him over and over again. So remedy this at some point or I'm going to be turning the dial.
And we follow that up with...
Even he eventually succumbed to this.
So, yeah, good job by you, Mikey. Good job by you.
Did he try and hide his voice at all?
No, that was a terrible impression of him not having
It was an impression of him, yes, not
being
doing
himself.
an impression.
But again, it is your 55th birthday.
It is my 55th birthday.
Any big plans after the show besides nappy time?
Not really. I am going home and, no kids live at home anymore and the wife and I,
Okay.
You know what I'm talking
let me
about?
Just say.
Dilly dilly. Well, there you have it, huh?
Or for her, it might be the pit of misery. Separate issue entirely. But whatever. We wish you all the best in your special day.
Well done.
So we've had
I know what
fun.
I won't be doing.
What?
Watching you later.
No, but the rest of us, please tune in. NFL Live, 1:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Everybody
it's
tune
this
in.
kind of incredible support that gets me through these trying times.
I'll be napping.
Other 55-year-olds that to share your year of birth. MC Hammer, Demi Moore, Steve Carell, Jim Carrey, Wesley Snipes, Tom Cruise, Paul Abdul, Jodie Foster.
Pretty good list.
Very good list.
It's a pretty good list of people that share 55.
And we also went through some significant 55s in sports. Michael Jordan's double nickel game, 95.
Right.
Coming back from his retirement where he was wearing number 45, he scored 55. And Peyton Manning's 55 touchdown passes. But, Mike, there's really only one way to send you out the door on your birthday. There have been so many cakes
There have been a lot of cakes.
A lot of cakes.
A lot of cakes going on.
And I think the only way to do it is for you to do a full dive.
So you want me to slam my face into a cake?
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
You've seen me over the years on Mike and Mike eat a lot of things during the show and do a lot of crazy things. So you just figure you're going to jump right on that and make me do something stupid like that.
Absolutely.
You think over the years, do you not think I have matured enough over time?
No.
I'm 55 years old.
Your birthday is the one day you can do it. Plus, you're 55! Let's go. That's your walk-in music to do the cake.
So I should slam my face into a cake.
Absolutely.
All right.
He's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. The cameras are up. We have the social play ready.
So I chose this cake. Will this cake suffice?
Any cake is fine.
You're going to have to do play-by-play for people on radio who
Here we
can't
go.
see
He's got
this.
the cake in his hands.
Oh, boy.
As he's celebrating. Here we go. He's got the cake in front of his face. And there it is! He is face first in that cake, ladies and gentlemen. He's a big, dumb animal, but he's our big, dumb animal. And he's celebrating by he's going in for a third or fourth bite. Now he's got a little icing everywhere on the cake, including up to the forehead. It looks like some of the cake is on the top of the nose. He's going in for a fifth bite. Will he go for a six-pack? He's going in for a six-pack because you only do that when you're 55. Thank you, everybody.